Have you ever wondered what the most common used data set is in Power BI? If you've ever learned Power BI, you're very familiar with the AdventureWorks data set. Everyone I know has used this when they were learning. Great. If everyone uses it, how can you make it different? Well, you just use some design elements, maybe some drill through functionality, things like that. Hi, I'm John, and I'm about to walk you through my version of the AdventureWorks data set. So whether you're a beginner or a seasoned pro at Power BI, hopefully this can show you something that maybe you're like, I hadn't thought of that before. That's a good idea. I can incorporate it into some of my other reports that I already do. So this data set covers sales, margin trends, sales patterns for products, different categories, models, and customer territories. So hopefully what you'll see is that with some intuitive visuals and some interaction, especially on drill throughs that we'll cover, that it might be a new way to look at this data. What's the goal here if everybody's seen this before? Well, it's to take a beginner level data set, but then still introduce some complexities and show how you can provide executive level overview with also the ability to drill down into details. So the first thing we'll cover real quick is just kind of how to interact with the report. This is the AdventureWorks data set on my website, strayinsights.com. You can see it on your screen. Now, this is an embedded report within the website, so there's a couple of things that are different than normal BI reports. So we'll go through just real quick. First thing you got to do is you got to click on this view interactive content. That opens up the reports. So when the report opens up, it's going to open up straight to this executive overview page. Now, we won't get into too much detail on the pages in this video because each page has its own specific YouTube video out there, which you can access by coming down here to the video link, right clicking, open link in new tab or new window. You cannot just click on it and access it. Normally, you'll get an error message within your browser. If you watch the fantasy football video, you know that you can zoom in or out on these pages by selecting the plus or minus arrows right here. I like mine around 70 to 80%. You can make yours whatever you're comfortable with. You can also go full screen mode by clicking on these arrows, and it will take the report and it will take up your entire screen. Take that back down, just click on the arrows again, it'll shrink it back down to normal size. One of the first thing to notice about the dashboards is that there's a page selection box up at the top where you can very easily go from one report page to the other. You also have slicers for fiscal year, quarter, and month on almost all of the pages. And one cool thing we added to this one that we might not have had in our fantasy football one was, let's say you've got a bunch of filters selected, like what you looked at, but you want to go back to its default state, how the page was originally. Well, cool thing is we added a button right here that just says clear all slicers. Click that and it'll take the page back to its default state. And one cool thing we added here that wasn't on the fantasy football is we've added some kind of pop-up tooltips. So if you kind of hover over some areas, a pop-up window will show up and show a little bit more data that might not be on the screen that you're looking at specifically. On some pages, you'll see a little green box down here, and it says there are certain drill through capabilities available. To drill through to more detail on that specific record you're looking at, just come over here, right click, drill through. This one's territory drill through, and it'll pop up with more information about that specific area that you're looking at. And to go back, pretty easy, just click right here. For those interested, this is the table schema within the Power BI desktop app. You can see all the tables, how they're connected, and it's pretty straightforward. Everything pretty much flows through the sales table. The only real change that I made to this data set compared to the sample one that I downloaded was that I added this customer core table right here because it had certain customers in this table and then certain resale customers in this table. And I wanted one way to be able to bring them all together to look at customers holistically. So I just created this customer core table. Now everything flows through there. Down here, you can see I've got my measure tables and some different calculation groups that I also use. Here's a couple of things about this data set. Yes, it uses static data that's housed on CSVs, which are on your computer, and then you bring into BI. What I wish it had was a couple of other features. So the biggest thing I wish this data set had was more information around supply chain so you could bring analysis into inventory and when to order. Ideally, the system would look at recent trends in product orders, look at current inventory, and say, I need to go order this item and I need to order this much. That would be ideal. Another thing I wish it had is really just a nice to have. It's not a need to have. I wish there were product images. So that way, when you were going into the model summary or the model detail pages, you could have an image of that actual product just for a visual reference to see what you were dealing with. Thanks for taking a few minutes to sit with me and listen to me explain AdventureWorks dataset, which everybody has kind of seen before, and how I modified it to just kind of put my own spin on it. Dig into the pages. Remember, each page has its own link, and hit me up if you have any questions or have any ideas. Thanks.